How does trauma affect brain development and what does that mean for your literacy instruction? You're going to find out right now. Hi everybody, I'm Lee Hall from Literacy Teachers, and I'm all about helping you inspire, motivate, and change how your students read and write for academic success. Today, Erin Silcox is going to be sharing with us how trauma affects brain development and the implications that this has for you as a literacy teacher. So let's go check out what she has to say.
So think about trauma. Trauma can be very scary. Think about what happens to your body when you are scared. So has anybody ever jumped out from behind a door and scared you, or watching a scary movie? What does it feel like? Well, imagine that your life is filled with scary things, like somebody with a belt who's coming after you, or a parent who's really unpredictable and might say some really mean things to you. And imagine that this happens on an ongoing basis. Well, the brain actually, you've probably heard of it, has a fight, flight, or freeze response. It's in the more primitive part of the brain where we sort of develop first, and you can imagine it's a lot of things like lizards and birds have this part of their brain. They have it in common with humans, and it's something that is made for survival. So when this fight, flight, or freeze response is triggered a lot and frequently, it can lead to development of that part of the brain over other parts of the brain that are responsible for things like planning, organization, and some skills required for academic achievement. So if you think about it, there's one reason why students who've experienced trauma, especially significant and ongoing trauma, have a very hard time regulating themselves in the classroom. So on a similar note, when a student lives in an environment that is scary a lot of the time, they can become something called hyper-aroused. And this means that their baseline vitals, like their heart rate, their blood pressure, and respiration, or just when we breathe, are higher. And if you think about when your heart rate is higher, when your blood pressure is higher, put yourself in their shoes, you tend to be more alert and more, like I said, aroused. And so that can lead to a hypervigilance and less of an ability to focus on other things because the person is sort of stuck in this elevated state. So you can imagine that when somebody's experiencing trauma, that and you're starting to begin to understand that their fight, flight, or freeze response is becoming really strong, and it's something that's sort of dominating their lives. They aren't building the parts of their brain. Their brain is very focused. All that electrical energy that's happening inside the brain is very focused on a couple things, and those are very focused on survival. So it's hard to learn how to plan and organize and stay. So it's hard to learn how to plan and organize when your brain is so focused on just surviving. So you can start to imagine that is one reason why students develop maladaptive behaviors. And then also the fact that they become just hyper aroused and just so alert and paying attention with their brain, once again, to the environment in order, once again, for survival. You can continue to imagine how those two things can result in a person who has a very hard time with self-regulation, with organization, with planning, and with staying focused in the classroom. So start to put yourself in those students' shoes and recognize that yes, they have a very hard time with school because of the way their brains have developed, but also reach out, look for your resources, and learn what you can do about that, because the brain is plastic and we can help them make changes and become capable citizens who can regulate, who can focus, who can plan, who can organize. So if you like that video, click here for the next one.